place to hide. I can't tell you how to see me, just a cage of bones. There's nothing inside. Will it always be burning down the walls? Is there a way for me to break? I'm a sharpshooter at Paul's masquerade. I am both face and mind, a free for you to draw. I'm a sharpshooter, have no face to show. Please don't take off my mask, my disguise.
Lightning strikes the White House right after Joe Biden tests positive again for the pinko pox. I didn't plan to wear this shirt today. I just realized that right now as soon as I said lightning strikes the White House. But we'll be talking about that plus some other very, very bad news for Joe Biden in the upcoming days and the upcoming midterm. So we'll go over some of that and see what we go with that. In other news, Kyrsten Sinema comes down and says, yes, we can go forward with the $840 billion tax and spend plan. And yes, that means that we will be getting 87,000 new IRS agents that'll totally only go after the upper 1%. So we'll talk just a bit about that and what that means for us. Brittany Griner has been sentenced, and Joe Biden, in the middle of his COVID haze, says, that's unacceptable, man! Although it appears that he really doesn't have any jurisdiction to say that. So we'll talk about that and what that means. And Christopher Wray testifies in front of the Judiciary Committee, telling us how concerned he is with the violence that's going on around abortion and everything else in the country, but also admits that he didn't quite look into Hunter Biden as much as he should have. It is going to be all this and more. You are my favorite breakfast tacos. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a fairly full show today, but on an advantage today, we actually can probably go just a little bit longer than we normally would because the gates don't open until 2 o'clock over in Waukesha. And yes, I will be heading over as long as I can figure out their convoluted ticket system and going in seeing the Michaels/Trump rally in Waukesha later on today. We'll be doing some man on the street stuff. One of my friends from the area is going to be helping me on camera, so we'll make sure we'll give him a warm welcome as well. I will probably not be able to see live chat while we're going, so that's going to be kind of unfortunate, but definitely still come back and join me as we go for that, as we go in and look and see what's going on with that. And you know, while we're in the interims, because I'm going to save some battery to hear the Orange Man speak, I will go back and look at the live chat and address it in later streams because, well, again, unfortunately, that's that's part of the problem with going with mobile streaming is you either have to have a certain level of YouTube subscribers in order to do that, and I've never actually tried to do with the YouTube Direct Studio, or you go with a third party and then you can't see a live chat. So, but still, we'll do some man on the street stuff. We'll see what's happening with that and where that goes and how we do. So definitely stick around and hang out for that. I think it's going to be a good time. I've never been to one of these rallies, and hey, by the next time you guys see me on a video game stream, I am officially going to have been felt up by a Secret Service agent. I wonder if I'll wind up on the no-fly list by saying, it's a security check, Jerry, not a date. But we got to get down into it because in spite of the fact that we do have some extra time today, we have a lot. There's a lot here. I've cut stuff because there was so much. And some of it was duplicate, obviously. But let's get down into it. Before we do, make sure you guys go over, check out all the great creators who are helping me launch up the website for a By the Common Man for the Common Man news experience. I'm, of course, talking about the wonderful Stephen Ignoramus of the Daily Ignoramus. Have we officially changed the name? Is it the Occasional Ignoramus yet? Either way, the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Porch Boys. Go check out all of them. Make sure that if you see John anywhere on Twitter, in his Discord, or etc., you wish him the Mazelist of Tovs. That's right, step on the glass, because he is getting himself hitched. And not only is he getting himself hitched, this is the Johnniest John thing to do. He's foregoing the religious ceremony, the actual getting of hitched, and going down to the courthouse and letting the government do it for him. Regardless, it's a merry time. It's the little bit of amusement in me knowing that this is what John is doing. The guy who makes me look like a government worshiper. And you guys know I hate the government. This guy makes me look like a government worshiper. So, yeah, go give him the Mazel of Tovs. Make sure you go check out Tweets by Britt and KTZed, who will also be joining us once they get started and get their strides. KTZed coming out with a new stream talking about the Brown Chicken Massacre, something that she is apparently allegedly tangentially associated with, who was also on PJ Williams last night. And I did not see the alert until after the fact, so that might be what... that might be the voices that bring me into my drive to Waukesha. So anyway, let's get into the news. Let's get started. Let's get the live chat up here. And by the way, don't be shy today. Because today don't hold back on any of your live chats, and most of you guys don't. But today, we will be giving a thank you to the people who chatted in the live chat. All the people who put in at least one message throughout the week have their name in this notebook here. So I can say thank you to people like A Gaines P, or MK Ultra, or Arvold, or Chilaga. All it takes is one message and you get onto this list. And as a bonus today, because I do appreciate the people, we will be going through some of the live chat as we go through the day. So, every once in a while I'll look up and address something that somebody said. I don't do a lot of live chat during the live stream, but at the end on a Friday, we do a big live chat smorgasbord and look into some of the stuff that you guys had to say throughout the day today. And if you could, obviously, because we are competing with AM radio for listeners right now, if you do want it to be read on air, do keep in mind that there might be kids in the car, so I might not be able to read it. do keep that in mind. But also, maybe at least leave a little bit of a reference, if you can, to what the comment was, because we aren't looking at it until after the show. And I've noticed throughout the past weeks that some of the more cryptic ones I get a little bit confused about. And then somebody in the live chat reminds me later what it was for. Because apparently you guys have better memories than I do. But let's get into it. Let's get started. Looking at the Dow. The Dow was down yesterday. It was slightly down. It didn't, I don't believe, peak up over the previous close throughout the day yesterday. Of course, it reset while we were doing the intro here, but it brought itself back down to 32,726.82, which was just slightly down from the day before. Some weakness in the markets right now based on the jobs report and the fact that there are starting to be some layoffs. There are starting to be some people who are starting to get the pink slip and say, hey, guess what? I don't have a job. So, something to watch there as we go, and I do think that the strength of the market is it's not going to do well. I know a lot of people are out there writing out saying, well, don't make a recession a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't prepare for a recession. Well, that's how people lose money, and a lot more people lose jobs than where we're at. If you come back and prepare for it, you can stanch the bleeding. You're still going to bleed jobs, but you can stanch some of that bleeding. So we'll watch that. We'll continue to see where the Dow goes. It looks like the futures are going to be up on all the major indices today, so we'll talk about that with the IBD article. On your Bitcoin, that took a launch throughout the day today, starting the day at midnight at 22,623.90, bringing itself up $770 and 50 US cents to 23,394.40, bringing that out to the 5-day to see what it did yesterday. Kind of looks like it got trounced yesterday. Kind of looks like it was not some good news for the Bitcoin yesterday after taking a major tumble in the late day, but kind of jumping around a little bit too and doing the whole roller coaster thing earlier in the day. So it's not a stable asset right now. Well, it's never really a stable asset to begin with, but it is a good indicator of what the shortest of short terms of the economy will do, because that will, of course, as I've always said, that's one of your most liquid assets. So it's the easiest one to buy into if you decide that you want to dabble in an asset, but it's also one of the easiest ones to liquidate if you need the money and you have something in an asset and you need to go back and I need gas, I need diapers, I need food. So we'll continue to watch that and see where that goes. Staying very steady throughout the 5 days after today's launch again. Up $87 and 20 US cents over the last 5 days. Looking at gas. Gas has come down ever so slightly once again, now down to $3.45 in the Madison area, with $3.46 being the outliers, which they were the standard bearers yesterday. So it does look like we are going to start to see some relief off of this, at least for now, until the heating time comes in and now some of that fuel is diverted over to heating your home. I do hope it stays down, because otherwise there are going to be some people who are very, very sorry when they see their heating bills, but probably not as sorry as they're going to be in Europe, as they're starting to realize, comrade, we must restart the coal chambers because Gazprom is being cut off. They're in a whole world of hurt over there for that, but we will see what happens with that and where that goes. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures rise ahead of jobs reports. Square stock dives on earnings. Tesla stock split approved from Scott Latonin. Dow futures rose Friday ahead of the highly anticipated July jobs report. Square parent block dove 6% on its earning report, and Tesla stock traded lower after shareholders approved plans for a 3-for-1 stock split. Key earnings movers Friday include AMC, Amgen, Funko, Lyft, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Are Funko Pops really a key part of the Dow Jones? Are you serious right now? I have to maybe transport myself back into the mid-90s and see if that was actually a thing back then, but I don't remember the stockbrokers and the people on CNBC ever talking about Thai Beanie Babies or Furbies. Well, I guess Furby would have been Hasbro, so that's a broader range, but just Funko, period? Wow, that kind of surprises me a little bit. I'm actually a little surprised Funko Pops are still a thing, too, because usually fads don't last that long. And that's what it is, it's a fad, but they typically don't go for that long. It's typically a 2 to 3 year thing. And I mean, Funko Pops were big. Rebecca and I were still together because I saw them in the Maloney, in Massachusetts that we went to. And that was 2016. Apparently they do have some staying power. I've never owned one. But I don't fault anybody else who does, because I've done some weird stuff for hobbies too. AMC stock slid more than 8%, Amgen edged lower, Funko lost 6.8%, Lyft raced 7.9% higher, Vertex was up more than 1%. Tesla traded down 0.3% early Friday. Elsewhere, Dow tech leaders Apple and Microsoft traded effectively flat before today's stock market opened. In the strengthening stock market, Dow stock Chevron and United Health, as well as Equinor, Heiko, and Monolithic Power Systems are among the stocks to watch. Keep in mind that ongoing stock market volatility is a reason to stay more conservative, despite recent signs of strength. Heiko, United Health, and Vertex are on the IBD leaderboard. Chevron was featured in this week's Stocks Nearby Zone column. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.1% versus fair value, while the S&P toggled in and out of narrow gains. The Nasdaq lost less than 1% in morning trade. Remember, overnight action Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among the ETFs, Nasdaq tracker QQQ Trust remained unchanged. The SPDR S&P 500 rose less than 0.1%. The 10-year yield is back up to 2.7, recovering part of Thursday's decline. The 10-year yield is trying to rebound after hitting its lowest level since early April. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices extended this week's sharp losses after West Texas Intermediate futures on Thursday dipped below $88 a barrel for the first time since mid-February. So that gas price, we actually might see a bit of a reprieve coming into the fall. Maybe that fall trip won't be completely out of the question after all. The Labor Department's July jobs report is set for a release on Friday morning. The U.S. economy is expected to have added 250,000 jobs in July, with an unemployment rate of 3.6%. A solid jobs report could be bad news for the Dow Industrial Average and other indices. Many investors are counting on the economy being weak enough for the Federal Reserve to shift from a rate hike to rate cutting in the first half of 2023. Yes, oh no, little people are going to do well, but the investors might be screwed because of it. I'd like to know where you added 250,000 jobs when you're starting to see them cut. With Robinhood cutting jobs, Ford's set to put 8,000 on the axe. I don't know where you're finding these 250,000 jobs, but okay. Alright, let's grab one from CNBC, and then we'll get into the big news of the day, just briefly on this. Dow slips as Wall Street awaits July jobs report. From Carmen Reinecke. Oh, here we go. Dow slids 200 points after strong jobs report, likely to keep the Feds in hiking mode. Let's actually take this one instead. Stock futures fell Friday after the jobs report was much better than expected, showing a strong labor market that will likely mean more interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. Yes, the little people are doing well, so the investors are screwed. Futures on the Dow slipped 222 points or 0.68%. The S&P lost 1.05%, and the Nasdaq shed 1.43%. So the numbers we just read from IBD are completely worthless at this point. The labor market added 528,000 jobs where? Easily beating a Dow Jones estimate of 258,000 increase. The unemployment rate also ticked down to 3.5%, below the 3.6% estimate. Wage growth also ticked up more than estimated, up 0.5% for the month and 5.2% higher than a year ago, with 9.1% inflation, signaling that high inflation is still likely a problem. Job growth was expected to slow as the Fed continues to hike interest rates to tame surging inflation, but this report shows a labor market still running hot. The report is a crucial one as it's one of two central banks. The central bank will see before it decides how much to raise rates in its September meeting. The S&P is up a modest 0.5% on the week, attempting to post a 3-week winning streak. The blue chip Dow dipped 0.4% this week, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ outperformed, up 2.7% on the week. Now, I am not a finance guy. I'm trying to learn. And that's part of the reason we're doing this. Part of the reason is to let you guys know, especially if you have a 401k or something else that's tied up in the stock market, a Roth IRA, etc., where you're anticipated that your retirement savings are going to be at the end of all of this. But part of this is also to help to understand the economy and how it affects the markets and how it affects investments, etc. And this makes absolutely zero sense to me. Hey, 528,000 new jobs, honk honk, I don't believe that for a second, are out there. We've added 500,000 workers and brought unemployment down to 3.5%. Honk honk. Please explain to me why this is a bad thing. At least for the investors, who should be thrilled that more people can get into a 401k or a Roth IRA or add to the ones they already have and possibly buy new stock. This report, and the one that we read from IBD, makes absolutely zero sense for me. Unless you're anticipating making the people starve to crash the economy and let the federal government keep spending. This makes no sense to me, but hey, 500,000 jobs, honk honk. We'll see what happens with that. Let's get into the big news of the day. We will start today from the Hill. Joe Biden tests COVID-19 positive for the 6th straight day. From Alex Gangitano. Prediction. This is going to become an ongoing thing, A, to worry you about long COVID, but also to keep him out and away from campaigning for people. Away from people's campaign events coming into the midterms. It's going to be just like we did in 2020. Keep Grandpa in the basement, don't let him say anything, and everything will be fine. Because one of the problems is that whenever Joe Biden speaks, he says stupid crap. And like it or not, that does hurt people as they go. President Biden tested positive for the Pinal pox once again on Thursday, but feels very well. His physician, Kevin O'Connor, said in a new update 2 weeks after the president first tested positive. Biden has tested positive for 6 days with a rebound infection. Wow, is that our new term? A rebound infection? Holy crap, I just felt a chill go up my spine. I looked over in the live chat and my spine went cold. Those are scary words. That has seen some patients who take the antiviral treatment Paxlovid. He first tested positive on July 21st and ended his isolation last week before testing positive again on Saturday. The president feels very well today. He's still experiencing a very occasional cough. Well, he's been doing that since before he got inaugurated. But the cough is improving. His temperature, pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and oxygen saturation remain entirely normal. His lungs remain clear, O'Connor wrote in a memorandum released by the White House. Did the Biden clones just break down too quickly? They've got to grow another one? This morning, his SARS-CoV-2 antigen testing remained positive, he added. Biden is expected to continue to isolate in the White House residence until testing negative. Or until after the midterm, whichever comes first. On Wednesday, the president enjoyed a light workout. I can't say anything nice about that. I tried. That one's too easy. We don't go for the easy jokes. We leave that for Stephen Ignoramus. And also had no fever, and his vital signs remain normal. According to O'Connor, his loose cough returned on Tuesday. Biden has hosted multiple virtual events this week while in isolation. On Thursday, he will host a roundtable with business and labor leaders to discuss the Inflation Reduction Act. Want to bet? So, do you think it's Kamala running the country right now, or do you think it's Dr. Jill? I don't know. From Fox 5 DC, if that wasn't enough. Video captures lightning strike near White House that injured 4. From Fox 5 DC Digital Team. 4 people were struck by lightning Thursday evening and are currently in the hospital with critical life-threatening injuries, according to DC Fire EMS. Do you think God is mad? Or do you think somebody was trying to launch a DeLorean? By the way, do you think somebody was trying to launch a DeLorean back to 1990? 92. We'll go with that. Members of the U.S. Park Police and Secret Service were the first to witness the lightning strike at Lafayette Park in the 1600 block of Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. They said they immediately notified DC Fire and EMS and the Metropolitan Police Department. A spokesperson for DC Fire and EMS said they received the call at 6:52 p.m. The Metro Police Department said they were notified 1 minute earlier. You know what I think? I think God is pissed. Upon arriving at the scene, officers found 2 men and 2 women unconscious. U.S. Park Police and members of the Secret Service administered CPR and AED. The victims were transported to a local hospital where they're currently being treated. And apparently Daily Wire has video. Fox 5 does too as well, but we can watch from here. No sound. Our cam was rolling on the White House North Lawn tonight when lightning struck Lafayette Park, nearby injuring 4. The thunder was so loud. Gabrielle Lake and I jumped up in fright. That was too close. We're shutting down, advised photographer Ron Wyndham.
That's too close. No. Huh? Yeah, it's too close. No, we're shutting down. You're welcome. You need umbrellas? Who needs umbrellas? You get umbrellas?
No, if you have one that's a high flash, you might not be able to read this big. We're in the middle of the rainstorm. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Here's one of the chairs too, Gabby. Yeah, that's the right.
There's a run for it. Are we, do you want to kill the hit or
Here, you take this one, that one too. Yeah, that's.
are we killing the hit or are we going inside? Killing the hit. We need to kill the hit. We gotta go.
Yeah,
We're not gonna have time to set up in time for 904. It's right over our head.
you just want to do inside, Ron? Let me know. I don't think we have enough.
Yeah, carry an umbrella after lightning just struck. Carry a metal pole up above you. That's smart. Let's see what they got at Fox 5. That's impressive. They just keep looping it back and forth.
4 people were struck by lightning today. This happened at Lafayette Park on Pennsylvania Avenue in Northwest just shortly before 7 tonight. Lindsay Watts is on scene with more on the details that we're learning. What a frightening situation, Lindsay. How did this happen? How are those people doing right now?
Sure, and in just the last few minutes, I learned from DC Fire and EMS that it was 2 men and 2 women who were apparently struck by lightning here near the White House. Fire officials say that all 4 of them were transported to the hospital in critical condition with potentially life-threatening injuries from this lightning strike. As you said, the calls started coming in to DC Fire and to DC Police about 10.
Upon arrival,
I love the bleed over.
We found 4 patients, 2 adult males.
Oh, that's why we have bleed over, because the chief is talking on the main one over there. So, yeah, in the midst of the fiercest fight for abortion, among other things, lightning strikes the White House. Well, Lafayette Square near the White House. By the way, remind me if you're following when we play Fallout 3 this weekend. And we'll walk over there in Fallout 3. We'll go see BLM Square, even though that was pre-BLM Square, and Lafayette Park, where this happened. And what remains of the White House, which in that universe, and that continuity, is a glowing crater. No, I'm not going to say that. That'll get me shut down on YouTube. But there you go. Lightning strikes. So Biden's got the COVID and lightning strikes just outside the White House. And yet there's more. Carolyn Maloney decides to put her 2 cents in for President Biden. Mr. President, I apologize. I'll support you if you run, but I don't think you're going to run.
Should President Biden run again in 2024?
Yes.
Mr. Nadler.
Too early to say. It doesn't serve the purpose of the Democratic Party to deal with that until after the midterms.
Ms. Maloney.
I don't believe he's running for re-election.
That was Democratic Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney in the congressional primary debate in New York's 12th congressional district, and she's with us now. You took heat for those comments. You did later say that if President Biden does run for re-election, you're going to back him. But why'd you say that? Why do you think he's not going to run for re-election?
Well, first of all, I think we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to President Biden. He saved the country by running against former President Trump, and he defeated him. And he has also done an incredible job as president, passing the Build Back Better, the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Plan, and now the Inflation Reduction Plan, which is based off the Build Back Better. So I think he's done an incredible job and is giving us a record to run on in the 22 elections. Let's finish the 22 elections before we get to 24.
But why do you think he's not running?
That was just my own personal belief, which I'm not going to. But I will support him if he runs.
Backpedal.
And it's totally his decision.
But why do you have that personal belief?
Well, we're all entitled to have our own information and our own beliefs. But I will support him if he runs for president. He's already been an outstanding president. He's helped the city tremendously with the American Rescue Plan. It brought 5.8.
Yeah, Maloney got a little talking to. Somebody who has more Botox than Maloney does shuffled her denture. No, she couldn't have, because she's in Asia right now. I was going to say, somebody with more Botox than Maloney does took her aside and says, if you don't backtrack on this right now, I will make sure that Nadler beats you. Look at all that Botox, though. Look at all that. All right. That's enough of that. What else do we have? More bad news for Biden. It's all coming. It's not going well for him. From the Associated Press, finally, 2 days later, Trump ally Carrie Lake wins GOP primary for Arizona governor. I don't know why it takes 2 days to count Maricopa County, but apparently it does, from Jonathan J. Cooper. Carrie Lake, a former news anchor who walked away from her journalism career and was embraced by Trump and his staunch supporters, won the Republican primary for Arizona governor on Thursday, dealing a massive blow to Mike Pence. I want to be clear about this. I know nothing about Carrie Lake. I know absolutely nothing about her whatsoever. I don't know what her record is going to be. I don't know if she's going to be good for Arizona. But what I do know is that her direct opponent was endorsed by Mike Pence. If I'd been voting for her, I would have researched her a lot more, but the fact that she dealt a blow to Mike Pence means that right now, for now, she is aces in my book. Lake's victory was a blow to the establishment that lined up behind lawyer and businesswoman Corrine Taylor Robson in an attempt to push their party past the chaotic Trump era. Lake said she would not have certified President Biden's 2020 victory and put false claims of election fraud at the center of her campaign because the Associated Press has to editorialize literally every word that they say. Arizonans, who have been forgotten by the establishment, just delivered a political earthquake, Lake said in a statement after the race was called. Republicans now enter the general election sprint with a slate of nominees closely allied with Trump who deny that Biden was legitimately elected president. Lake will face Democratic Secretary of State Katie Hobbs in the November election. The race for governor isn't about Democrats or Republicans, it's a choice between sanity and chaos, Hobbs said on Thursday night in a statement on Lake's victory. So, Carrie Lake, we will continue to watch that race because I think that is going to be one of the big bellwethers coming up for midterms. Also one of the ones where we will start to see, and I'm going to be interested to sit and watch what happens with this, where this goes, and if there is a honkening to this. That's going to be the most important side to see, is whether or not Maricopa County takes 3, 5, 7 a month to count. This is going to be an interesting one. This is probably going to be more interesting than the one in my state, because Evers is up for re-election too, and I don't know where I'm going to go with him. I know that I don't want Evers to be governor anymore, but I've met Tim Michels before. I'm not a fan of Rebecca Clayfish. I just had this discussion with a coworker yesterday. I'm not a Republican first and foremost, but the Democrats have lost their minds so staunchly that I can align with the Republicans for now because they seem to have the most effective idea to leave me the hell alone. It's not great, but it's not perfect, but it's there. But Clayfish was endorsed by Walker, and that's a no-go zone for me. But congratulations to Carrie Lake on winning the GOP primary. A little bit of shuffling going on in the election system from 12 News Arizona, an NBC affiliate. Pinal County hires new elections director amid primary election controversy. No author given. Pinal County has hired a new elections director amid a deeply embarrassing primary election day ballot shortage controversy, county officials say in a press release. The county has now hired former recorder Virginia Ross as the county's new elections director. The former election director, David Frisk, is no longer in the position of elections director and is no longer employed by Pinal County. The county did not clarify whether Frisk was fired or whether he resigned from his position. I'm pretty sure he was fired. Hundreds of voters may have been turned away in the county on Tuesday as numerous polling places experienced ballot shortages. The ballot shortage was due to an unprecedented demand for in-person ballots in certain precincts, the county said on Tuesday on Twitter. So, what had happened in a TLDR, because I don't have an article directly on what happened there, I thought that was going to be covered with this. But on a TLDR, the elections officials in Pinal County were pointing out the fact that they only got like 12 Republican in-person ballots. And then they had to go call for more. And then they got like 15 at a time. So they weren't getting the ballots and people were showing up to vote and having to be turned away. Honk, honk. Because of an unprecedented demand for in-person ballots. I don't know what the election laws are or how much it costs to print on a paper, because you've got to do a Scantron, etc. But what I do know is you should effectively have a ballot for every registered voter in your precinct. Plain and simple. End of story. And even if you start to get mail-in or absentee ballots piling up, I don't know if Arizona has same-day registration or not, but if they have same-day registration, you've got plenty of ballots there to contend with the same-day registration issues. So, no evidence of nefarious acts. No, we only put 12 in-person ballots for Republicans in a county. I don't know. They say there's no nefarious action there, but it looks nefarious to me. All right, more primary news. Glenn Jacobs. Thank you, Knox County, for electing me to serve a second term as your mayor. I am so grateful for the support you have shown me and my family throughout my campaign for re-election, and will continue to do all that I can to serve you to the best of my ability. And I like Glenn Jacobs. I think he's a good guy. He's, from what I understand, a fairly libertarian guy, but I also like the fact that he is he's elected mayor of Knox County and giving you a thank you, because most of us remember Mr. Jacobs as this guy. Quite a difference now. But still, congratulations, Kane. From what I understand out of Knox, you do good work. All right, let's go talk about what's going to start affecting you directly. Even though it's only for the upper 1%. Kyrsten Sinema pushes Biden's agenda forward, agreeing to Democrat tax increase and climate spending. From Zach Jewell. President Brandon's spending agenda climbed another hurdle and now appears to have enough votes to pass the Senate, after Kyrsten Sinema agreed to the package on Thursday. The bill, titled the Inflation Reduction Act, which will do the absolute opposite, resurrected parts of Biden's massive Build Back Better agenda after Senator Manchin agreed with Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the package last week. Sinema was the last Democrat to hold out on the bill due to its carried tax increase provision before an agreement was made Thursday to remove the provision. We will get to that because, of course, they're already out there to demonize Sinema for this. We have agreed to remove the carried tax provision, protect advanced manufacturing, and boost our clean energy economy in the Senate's budget reconciliation package, Sinema said, according to Fox News. Subject to the parliamentarians' review, I will move forward. Chuck Schumer said he plans to move forward with the reconciliation bill on Saturday. Democrats will use the budget reconciliation process to bypass the Senate filibuster and advance the bill along party lines, potentially giving the party a much-needed legislative victory before a midterm election where Democrats are expected to face a red wave. The spending package includes tax increases on billion-dollar corporations. And you know what the worst part is? People actually believe that. And the largest legislative climate spending in U.S. history at $369 billion. Manchin's surprising agreement to the bill came after he shot down Democrat attempt at pushing through Biden's agenda and reportedly told Democrat leaders he would unequivocally refuse to support legislation related to climate change and tax increases. No, he was going to wait until the inflation hit after the midterms is what he was doing. Manchin claims that reconciling with Democrats on this package will help the country fight inflation. But findings from Penn Wharton budget model will now bring that claim into question. No, there was never a question about it. It's just another lie that Manchin and Schumer have tried to shove down your throat. If signed into law, the Inflation Reduction Act could result in the exact opposite of what its name suggests. We know, as it's estimated to slightly increase inflation over the next 2 years, according to a Penn Wharton study. The act would very slightly increase the inflation until 2024 and decrease inflation thereafter. These point estimates are statistically indistinguishable from zero, thereby indicating low confidence that the legislation would have any impact on inflation, the Penn Wharton budget model found. The study went on to explain that inflation could rise by 0.05% over the next 2 years, before a marginal drop of 0.25% by the late 2020s, rendering the spending package basically ineffective at accomplishing its purpose. Ryan Saavedra contributed to this report. Yeah, you knew she was going to do it. You knew she was. I knew she was. In fact, I am positive that a lot of this was hashed out before Chuck U. Schumer and backstabber Manchin both released this bill. I think everybody knows that too. But of course, they still have to come back out and demonize Sinema. Sinema's going to get primaried from the left the next time she's up, and it's going to be hilarious when she does, by the way. It is going to be absolutely a riot when she gets primaried from the left. And then they lose that Senate seat too. From Insider, Kyrsten Sinema agreed to the Inflation Reduction Act, but cut the Carrie interest tax provision. Here's what that means for wealthy investors. Wealthy investors! From Matthew Lowe, Insider is basically a left-wing tabloid at this point. I think it's going to be Sinema, not AOC. Alright, Senator Sinema of Arizona on Thursday agreed to back the Inflation Reduction Act of 22, meaning the bill has gained support from all 50 Democrats in the U.S. Senate. Her cooperation came with the removal of a carried interest tax provision, a small portion of the bill that targeted a tax break for the wealthy. We've agreed to remove the carried interest tax provision, protect advanced manufacturing, and boost our clean energy economy in the Senate's budget reconciliation legislation, Sinema said in a statement on Thursday. It represents a momentary win for some of the richest Americans. The provision had a targeted loophole that can be used to reduce taxes for hedge fund managers and other people who manage the money for a living. When fund managers make money for their clients through their investments, they receive a cut of these profits. They're allowed to classify that payment as capital gains, because it is. I don't know what else you would classify that as, which are subject to lower tax rates than those for salary paychecks. Okay, question, and I'll probably look into this while we're talking about this, but, okay. You invest, you make a profit off that investment, and it comes in your capital. You're not getting a regular salary. Like, it's not, you're not performing work for somebody else and somebody else is paying into you, or you're paying yourself. You've gained appreciation on your asset. What else would you classify that as? I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense to me. With the removal of the provision, fund managers have avoided restrictions that would have made it harder for them to keep paying the same low tax rates on their income, because their income is a capital gain. Republicans and Democrats alike have advocated eliminating the tax break since it was brought to the attention of Congress in 2007 by a law professor's journal article. They have so far failed to close the loophole, because it's not salary. This is the hard part for me. They come back out here to try to reclassify this, but it's not a salary. It is by definition a capital gain. A Trump-era policy that added a caveat to the loophole through a 3-year holding period, which means private equity funds have to hold onto their portfolio companies for at least 3 years before cashing out. The Inflation Reduction Act's provision would have extended the holding period to 5 years, meaning that even if it had survived discussions with Sinema, it wouldn't have closed the loophole completely. You know what you could do, if you really wanted to put the squeeze to these hedge fund managers, would be raise the tax on capital gains. But you can't do that because that would shove it up the behind without lube on most anybody who owns a house. And you know that, by the way. Or owns a house and goes to sell it later on, after it's appreciated in property. We just have to go by the hedge fund managers. How dare they be successful? The Inflation Reduction Act provision would have extended that holding period to 5 years, meaning that even if it had survived discussions with Sinema, it wouldn't have closed the loophole completely. So, even in the fact that she's capitulated and allowed $840 billion in unrestricted spending by Democrats, that's not going to do anything to reduce the inflation or really honestly affect the weather. They still have to go back and find a way to demonize her for it. However, our friend Ted Cruz, who I don't usually say is right because I can't stand him, hit it right on the nose with this one. Senator Ted Cruz tweets out, "The Democrats' reconciliation bill would fund 87,000 IRS agents. These agents won't go after the billionaires. They will audit everyday Americans." Yeah, because you don't need 87,000 agents to audit maybe 1 million people. I've traveled across Texas in the U.S. I've never once heard anyone say, we need more IRS agents. But, you know, the fun, cool trick is that the Biden people have convinced their Twitter sycophants that we do need more IRS agents, and that the IRS agents aren't going to go after the Twitter sycophants. It's a neat little trick.
This bill funds 87,000 new IRS agents. Imagine IRS agents descending upon America like a swarm of locusts. And by the way, these IRS agents aren't there to go after billionaires. They're there to go after you. They're there to go after your small business. They're there to go after your family. The Democrats' idea is if they audit the hell out of every American, think of all the money they can raise. Now, I got to say, as I've traveled Texas, as I've traveled the country, I've heard the people yearning for a lot of things in America. I've never once heard someone say, what we need is more IRS agents. I mean, this is big government run amok. And if you don't want to be audited next year and the year after and the year after, and by the way, if you're a Republican donor, this corrupt administration will audit you next year and the year after and the year after, we ought to kill this terrible, terrible bill. This bill funds
So, one of the other things to look at for this, because really honestly, I don't necessarily believe that they need 87,000 new agents to go through and do the audits of even us plebs. You know what they do need 87,000 new agents for? To comb through your social media, your Twitter. This is not even going to be going in to try to raise funds off of middle-class taxpayers in general. This is for political dissidents. You've doubled the size of the IRS. I mean, Ted Cruz gets it half right. If you're a Republican donor, you're going to be in the crosshairs. No, if you've written "Let's Go Brandon" on Facebook with your first and last name attached to it, Mr. IRS man is going to be sending you a letter. Or could. I'm not going to say is going to. I'm going to say could. I do think that they're going to draw a line at people who don't have enough to get taxed out of, obviously. But hey, if you're doing fairly well and you think Biden is a fool, guess what? It's time to pay up, sucker. I think Fanning's gif, when he promoted out the show today, kind of just said it outright because, yeah, your savings, good luck with that. When you either sit back to fight the audit or realize that they have to do. And one piece of advice for this, and it's something I've done for a while. Throw a little bit extra in when you pay taxes. Tell your accountant. You know, let's throw another 1% in there just to make sure. Yes, I understand. Yes, I know. It's foolish, but just to make sure. Hey, do we have all those receipts? Do we have a receipt for every deduction that we've taken? Hey, can we just skip this deduction this time through? It might be time to do that. I do not advocate for putting more taxation into the government, but I also don't want them going through any of your personal information. So I don't want to give them the excuse to do it. But, of course, this is something that you need to discuss with your tax accountant. This is not official financial advice, obviously. But it's something to at least consider. All right, let's keep going. Oh, I just put the music back up and we've got more video. So, speaking of the government going after people they don't like, Merrick Garland made an announcement yesterday. ABC News breaking. Attorney General Merrick Garland announces that the Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to the death of Breonna Taylor. Oh yes, because double jeopardy isn't a thing when you are a political enemy. Or, not even a political enemy, but somebody who the Biden administration can make an example out of in order to forward a political agenda. Let's listen to Merrick Garland.
Earlier today, I spoke with the family of Breonna Taylor. This morning, they were informed that the Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to Ms. Taylor's death. Those alleged crimes include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction offenses. The 4 defendants were charged through 2 separate indictments and 1 information. I'm going to begin today by discussing the civil rights offenses that stem from the falsification of a search warrant. We allege that these offenses resulted in Ms. Taylor's death. Earlier today,
Now, I have some mixed feelings about this. I really do. One of the problems that I have with this is the profile of this and the timing. Was there a falsification in the search warrant? I don't know. I would like to see the charging documents to see where they landed on that conclusion. I do understand the locality, especially in a Metro Police Force, will protect its own. I understand that. But we are sitting here in a situation right now where we are encroaching on midterms. It is August already. September, October have to pass through in full, and the rest of August. We have 3 months until it comes out to midterms. And now, just now, we're coming back here and reopening a case that started large swaths of Louisville on fire under protests. A case that was so important, by the way, that it got ignored by the BLM mainstream until after St. George passed away. And I was told, I mentioned this with somebody else here, but I was told that I was being foolish for calling this out because, well, they're not going after any of the officers, they're going after the detectives above. No. Brett Hankinson was one of the 4 arrested. That was the idiot who should have been convicted, by the way, for essentially shooting with his eyes closed and going into the apartment of a neighbor. That guy should never see the other side of a police force again. Ever. Now, with this being said, of course I've got to put my agenda into this because, well, that's what you're watching me for, right? If you ended the drug war entirely, because you failed at it anyway, a lot of things like what Miss Taylor was being accused of when they came in wouldn't even be an issue. On top of that, as Rand Paul said, if you ended the no-knock warrant aspect of things, even though, yes, they knocked, they announced themselves, they made themselves very clear that they were police officers before they came in. If you end this no-knock warrant crap, then you don't see this as well. But this just seems politically charged for me. For results. For something they can do easily. Oh, a cop got off? Oh, ACAB, unless they're going after Republicans. These guys shot a black person. Give them the chair. Let's read from ABC. DOJ charges current and former police officers in connection with the raid that killed Breonna Taylor. From Nadine El Bawab, Alexander Malin, Jack Date, and Amanda Sue. A.G. Garland announced Thursday that the Department of Justice has filed against 4 former and current Louisville police officers in connection with the death of Breonna Taylor. The charges include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction offenses. The federal charges announced today allege that members of a police investigations unit falsified the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant of Ms. Taylor's home, and that the act violated federal civil rights laws, and these violations resulted in Ms. Taylor's death, Carolyn said in a news conference. The federal charges against Detective Joshua Janes, former Louisville Detective Kelly Goodlett, Sergeant Kyle Meany alleged they violated Taylor's Fourth Amendment rights when they sought a warrant to search Taylor's home while knowing they lacked probable cause, and that they knew their affidavit supporting the warrant contained false and misleading information, omitted other material, resulting in her death. Among the other things, the affidavit falsely claimed that the officers had verified the target of the alleged drug trafficking operation had received packages at Miss Taylor's address. In fact, the defendants Janes and Goodlett knew that was not true, Garland said during a press conference. Garland also alleged that Janes and Goodlett, new armed officers, will be carrying out the raid at Taylor's home, and that conducting the search could create a dangerous situation for anyone who happened to be in Miss Taylor's home. Prosecutors allege that Jane and Goodlett met in a garage after Taylor's death, where they agreed to tell investigators looking into the botched raid a false story. Charges have also been filed against Brett Hankinson, a former Louisville Metro police officer who was involved in the death of Breonna Taylor. Hankinson has been charged with a 2-count indictment for deprivation of rights under color of law, both of which are civil rights offenses. Hankinson allegedly used unconstitutional excessive force during the raid when he fired 10 shots through a window and a sliding glass door in Taylor's home that was covered in blinds and curtains where there was no longer a lawful objective justifying the use of deadly force. That right there is where I think this is politically charged. Where again, now, as far as the two detectives and the sergeant, if they actually did falsify this warrant, give them the chair. I'm serious. Because that is unacceptable. But the thing with Hankinson just seems like sour grapes to me, and because that's included with this, that just, in my mind, that taints the entire thing. That they went looking for something, a reason, to both open a case back up against Hankinson. Well, hey, if everything was falsified, then he shouldn't have ever been shooting or ever have been there. I don't know, this seems really excessive to me. And again, a way to come back out and try to enrage and inflame tensions coming up ahead of the midterms. Something smells like crap about this one. And again, if they'd have left Hankinson out of this, I would probably be on Garland's side for once in my life. It's the fact that they're going after Hankinson again that just makes this completely sus to me. The lack of accountability showcased in every aspect of Breonna's killing speaks to how much more work there is to be done before we can say our justice system is fair and our system of policing is protective of people of color, says none other than one Mr. Benjamin Crump, who is of course at the center of this. Because why wouldn't he be? That's the other reason that I don't trust this. So, sorry Rebecca, but I have questions about this one. Alright. Let's listen to more of Garland on this.
We allege that the defendants knew their actions in falsifying the affidavit could create a dangerous situation, and we allege these unlawful acts resulted in Ms. Taylor's death. The charges announced today also allege that the officers responsible for falsifying the affidavit that led to the search took steps to cover up their unlawful conduct after Ms. Taylor was killed. We allege that defendants Janes and Goodlett conspired to knowingly falsify an investigative document that was created after Ms. Taylor's death. We also allege that they conspired to mislead federal, state, and local authorities who were investigating the incident. For example, we allege that in May 2020, those two defendants met in a garage where they agreed to tell investigators a false story. This indictment separately alleges that defendant Meany lied to the FBI during its investigation of this matter.
I don't know, dude. I really don't. Especially the timing and especially the fact that Hankinson is involved in this one. I mean, I have no problem if you tell me that I'm wrong. All right, let's do some more criminal justice. This time abroad. From Fox News, Brittany Griner trial, Russian court hands down verdict and sentence in WNBA star's case. From Ryan Gatos. Brittany Griner, an American basketball superstar and Olympic gold medalist on Thursday. She's an Olympic gold medalist. She can't be guilty. Fox News is not to be trusted either, just so you know. On Thursday, learned her fate in a Russian court after she pled guilty to a drug charge last month. A Russian judge convicted Griner of drug possession and drug smuggling and sentenced her to 9 years in prison. She was also fined 1 million rubles, the equivalent of about $16,200. Griner, 31, appeared in a courtroom in Khimki, just outside of Moscow. She issued an apology ahead of her verdict and sentencing as persecutors pushed for a 9.5-year sentence. I want to apologize for my teammates, my club, my fans, and the city of Yekaterinburg for my mistake that I made and the embarrassment that I brought on them, she said. I want to apologize to my parents, my siblings, the Phoenix Mercury organization back at home, the amazing women of the WNBA, and my amazing spouse back home. Griner contended she made an honest mistake when she brought vape cartridges containing oils derived from cannabis into a Moscow airport back in February, adding, I hope in your ruling it does not end my life. Well, you're strong and powerful. You'll break a lot of rocks. Griner was returning to a Russian basketball team, UMMC Ekaterinburg, after there was a pause in the season for international play. She called for Yekaterinburg her second home. I had no idea that the team, the cities, my fans, my teammates would make such a great impression on me over the last 6.5 years that I spent here. I remember vividly coming out of the gym and all the little girls that were in the stands there waiting on me. That's what kept making me come back here, she said. Russian prosecutors argued Griner purposely packed the cannabis oil. Griner's lawyers argued that Griner was using marijuana to treat pain, but Russian officials said U.S. laws regarding the legality of the drug had no bearing on the Russian judicial system. That's true. I don't believe in laws and authority any more than the next libertarian. I actually probably believe in them less. But I understand that when you're a guest in somebody else's country, you abide by their laws, not your home laws. And I try to avoid going to places that have laws that I don't feel like abiding by. I'm looking at you, Illinois. Because if I am a guest in that place, if I live there, I work as hard as I can to change it. As I do with a lot of laws in Wisconsin. I do talk to my representatives, even though they're all Democrat in this town. I do talk to them and say, hey, do something. I write letters, I petition. But I go to Illinois as sparingly as I can because of their draconian conceal and weapons carry measures. I try to avoid that state as much as possible. There's a reason I've only gone on one really, really big hike this year. No, two actually. The U.S. State Department had classified Griner as wrongfully detained. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken revealed last week that the Biden admin offered a substantial proposal for the return of the basketball player and fellow American Paul Whelan. Blinken said during a press conference the Biden admin made the proposal weeks ago and is hoping to speak to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for the first time since February 15th. Russian media has speculated the trade could be for Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death, who is serving 25 years in the U.S. after being convicted of conspiracy to kill U.S. citizens and providing aid to a terrorist organization. So, she got 9 years for carrying what I understand is a distributable amount of cannabis oil. This is funny. I gotta ask before I read this headline, Mr. President, what bearing do you think that you have in this situation? Exactly. What authority do you think you have to make laws for another country? From Politico, Biden, Griner's 9-year sentence is unacceptable. Now, do I think that Russia did grab Griner based on the fact that she was a U.S. citizen and they are aiding and abetting the Ukraine? Absolutely. I think she did something wrong, but also the fact that she got targeted for a search that would not have happened had it not been for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. from Olivia Olander. President Joe Biden said Thursday that the guilty verdict and 9-year sentence handed by Russian court to American basketball star Brittany Griner is unacceptable, calling for her immediate release. My admin will continue to work tirelessly and pursue every possible avenue to bring Brittany and Paul Whelan home safely, Biden said. What avenue is that? I have to ask. You're aiding and abetting the enemy in their big conflict right now. Your Speaker of the House is aiding and abetting the enemy of their next-door neighbor, who they have an uneasy alliance with. What avenue do you possibly have, Mr. President? I saw one tweet going around, and I had to laugh a little bit about it. I think the only reason that Biden and the White House are mad about this is because they want to bring her home so Kamala can sentence her for longer. I can't claim credit for that. I saw that on Twitter yesterday and I laughed. I laughed hysterically at that one. Anthony Blinken, who discussed the proposal to bring the American detainees home with his Russian counterpart last week, said Griner's sentencing further compounds the injustice of her wrongful detention. This step puts a spotlight on our significant concerns with Russia's legal system and the Russian government's use of wrongful detentions to advance its own agenda, using individuals as political pawns, Blinken said. I would go look at your southern border before I said that too much louder. The 31-year-old was sentenced to 9 years in Russian prison Thursday after she was found guilty of possession and smuggling of cannabis oil. Attention is now expected to turn to the possibility of a high-stakes prisoner swap proposed by the Biden admin that would involve both Griner and Whelan, a former U.S. Marine detained in 2018 in Russia, of espionage charges. The proposed trade would include Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. Yeah, and Biden again is going to come and find out that he really has no authority in this matter. Inside Brittany Griner's possible new home, locked up in a Russian prison. From Patrick Riley. Okay, look at the size of this chick. This is not going to be her new home. There's a quarry somewhere that's going to be her new home for 16 hours a day. WNBA star Brittany Griner was convicted of cannabis possession, smuggling in Russia on Thursday and was sentenced to 9 years. While it's not exactly clear where she'll be serving out her unusually harsh sentence, which she is appealing, Griner may return to the female Pinal facility where she has spent the last 6 months outside of Moscow. The prison, dubbed Correctional Colony No. 1, or IK1, is no Stalin-era gulag, but it seems bleak at best. The facility is a former orphanage, rebuilt and converted 10 years ago to a pretrial detention center and prison where women live out their sentences, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported last month. Located in the village of Novoye Grishino, the overwhelmingly gray and artificially lit prison has its own sewing factory and Russian Orthodox church inside. Video footage of the facility shows towering gray walls, topped with barbed wire, and gives a glimpse inside the sewing factory where dozens of women appear to be working. A large rusting statue of Lenin sits in the snow-filled courtyard because of course it does. Because who else could it possibly be? Journalist Yekaterina Kalugina visited Griner while she was at the facility and told the Times that each day is repetitive and monotonous for the Phoenix Mercury Center. Each morning, inmates wake up, eat a basic meal in her cell. Kalugina said they are then permitted to walk around the courtyard and then spend the rest of the day either reading books or watching Russian television. Because of course it's Lenin. Who else could it be? Uniquely, the cells have a private washroom, but the inmates are only allowed to shower twice a week. She said they're permitted to order food online and keep food in an available refrigerator. The prison was also formerly home to Israeli-American Nama Issachar, who was arrested in 2019 and sentenced to over 7 years in prison after Russian police said they found marijuana in her luggage while she was connecting flights in Moscow. Vladimir Putin later pardoned her for drug trafficking in 2020. I'm sensing a theme here. I'm sensing a bit of a pattern of activities going on here. Issachar was detained as a political pawn between Russia and Israel, just as Griner is with the United States now. I don't doubt that she's a political pawn. I really don't. But regardless, these are not our laws. This is not her home. From Fox Business, last one we'll do on this one. Then we will keep going down the list. We might finish today because, again, we get to go a little bit longer today because of the Trump rally, and I took the day off from my day job to go back and do some streaming over there. Griner sentencing, how the WNBA star salary compares to her Russian earnings, from Joe Morgan. WNBA star and Olympic gold medalist Brittany Griner learned her fate in Russian court on Thursday, sentencing her to 9 years in a Russian prison after pleading guilty to drug charges in June. Yes, she was wrongfully detained, we know. Reacted following the news, pursue a Repostile Avenue, we saw that already. The reason for Griner's presence in Russia in the first place was monetary. Griner, who plays for the Phoenix Mercury, is similar to many WNBA players in that she chooses to play overseas during the off-season in order to supplement her salary. In 2020, Griner signed a 3-year, $664,544 contract extension with Phoenix, making $221,450 during the 2021-2022 season, and is on the books for $227,900 for the 2022-2023 season. Guess what? She's not getting that. Well, I guess she is. In May, the WNBA announced that Griner would be paid her full salary without it counting towards the Mercury's salary cap. Her WNBA salary pales in comparison to her earnings in Russia. Griner, who's played in Russia for the past 7 seasons, earns over $1 million a season while playing for the UMKC Ekaterinburg. So she is fined $16,400 approximate US dollars after rubles, 1 million rubles essentially, and earning over $1 million US dollars per season playing for the UMKC. So the fine's not going to be an issue. That's pennies in the bucket for somebody like that. But yeah, for 9 years of no income, we'll see how quick that goes. Yeah, that's what I've heard too, Horatius, but no, I haven't seen a confirmation of that myself. Alright, from ABC News, after Supreme Court ruling, it's open season on U.S. gun laws. Based. By Lindsay Whitehurst and Alana Durkin-Richer. Supreme Court ruling expanding gun rights threatens to upend firearms restrictions across the country. Based. As activists wage court battles over everything from bans on AR-style guns to age limits. The decision handed down in June already has led to one judge to temporarily block a Colorado town from enforcing a ban on the sale and possession of certain semi-automatic weapons. The first major gun decision in more than a decade, the ruling could dramatically reshape gun laws in the U.S., even as a series of horrific mass shootings pushes the issues back to the headlines, because, of course, it's ABC and they have to editorialize. The gun rights movement has been given a weapon of mass destruction, and it will annihilate approximately 75% of the gun laws eventually, said Evan Knappen, a New Jersey gun rights attorney. Dude. Evan. Those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up. We got to get up to like 99% of gun laws gone. Out the window. The court battles come as Biden admin and police departments across the U.S. are struggling to combat a surge in violent crime and mass shootings, including several high-profile killings carried out by suspects who purchased their guns legally, with questions as to where they got the money for them. And given the sheer number of cases now working through the courts, a lot more time will be spent in the courtrooms no matter who wins. We will see a lot of tax dollars and government resources that should be used to stop gun crime being used to defend gun laws that are life-saving and wildly popular, said Jonathan Lowry, Chief Counsel and Vice President at Brady, the gun control group. Congress broke through years of deadlock to pass a modest gun violence prevention package weeks ago, and the House voted to renew a ban on high-powered semi-automatic weapons, though that effort is likely doomed in the Senate, as Republicans push back on firearms restrictions and say recent spikes in gun violence should be met with stepped-up police response. Yeah, and hopefully most of those laws get to the Supreme Court and get stamped as unconstitutional, because they are. So, yeah, get those numbers up. We need to see 99% of gun laws restricted, done away with. I mean, 100% obviously would be the ideal, but we'll start with 99. From CNN. DeSantis suspends Tampa prosecutor who took stance against criminalizing abortion providers. From Stephen Contorno. Hey, we can watch him explain why he's doing this. Ron DeSantis on Thursday suspended Tampa's elected prosecutor, Andrew Warren, for pledging not to use his office to go after people who seek and provide abortions or on doctors that provide gender-affirming care to transgender people. His executive order, DeSantis accused Warren of neglect of duty and incompetence as the state attorney of Hillsborough County. To take a position that you have veto power over laws of the state is untenable, DeSantis said at a press conference in Tampa surrounding the law enforcement. Warren responded hours later, accusing DeSantis of trying to overthrow democracy here in Hillsborough County. Now, I have mixed positions on this now that I know a little bit more about this. And I had questions about this before, by the way. I think on its face, this is a base decision, because you're helping to save little babies. But I have some issue with this, given a precedent that it can set. Given the fact that there's so many sheriffs around the country that are getting ready to come out and say, no, this is a Second Amendment sanctuary, so we're not going to be enforcing your gun laws. I think that's a cool thing. But now, say in Missouri. In Missouri, they pull off a miracle. Or a honkening. And they flip the Democrats, they flip the governor's seat blue. And now all of a sudden you have sheriffs all across the state that are now facing down either termination or possible criminal charges for the exact same thing that DeSantis is trying to throw onto Zevin right now. Or Warren, not Zevin. Why was I thinking Zevin? I'm in a very precarious spot with this, because I want these sheriffs to have the ability to continue not enforcing gun laws. I don't want them to have their jobs and their livelihoods on the lines, or even their freedom, because under this president, some of them could be jailed for this. Neglect of duty. So this has, well, again, I find this based on its face, left me with a lot more questions than answers on something like this. At a previously planned news conference during which he unveiled 2 suspects in a pair of 40-year-old cold case murders, Warren defiantly declared, "I'm still the duly elected state attorney of Hillsborough County. If the governor thinks he can do a better job, he should run for state attorney or not president," Warren said, referencing reports that DeSantis is widely considered to be a contender for the GOP nomination in 2024. Warren did not say if he intends to pursue legal action to avoid the suspension, nor is it clear what happens if he attempts to continue working as state attorney. Earlier on Thursday, the website for the Office of State Attorney, 13th Judicial Circuit of Florida, was placed in maintenance mode. By evening, it was back online and featured DeSantis appointee to replace Warren, Hillsborough County Circuit Court Judge Susan Lopez. So, again, I like what these sheriffs are doing in places like Missouri and in places like flyover country where they won't enforce gun laws. And hopefully those states stay with Republican governors for a very, 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 very long time. Because as much as I like the action by DeSantis here, I think that just blew a hole in the justification and the ability for these duly elected sheriffs to thumb their noses at an incoming Democrat governor in states like that. Unfortunately, I'd like to see where this goes and how this plays out, but that's my fear of this right now, is that this just blew a massive hole in that agenda. And until we get rid of a lot of the gun laws, we've got fantastic holdouts who won't enforce them. But let's listen to DeSantis.
The prosecutor, state attorney for this judicial circuit, Andrew Warren, has put himself publicly above the law. In June of 2021, he signed a letter saying that he would not enforce any prohibitions on sex change operations for minors. And that's a debate that we're having mostly administratively and through medical licensing in Florida, but other states have enacted penalties on the people that would perform those, which are really disfiguring these young kids. And he said, it doesn't matter what the legislature does in the state of Florida, he's going to exercise a veto over that. He's also instituted policies of, quote, presumptive non-enforcement. And this involves an array of different things, and you'll probably hear Sheriff Chronister and some of the other law enforcement officers talk about it. But that is not consistent with the role of a prosecutor. Yes, you can exercise discretion in an individual case, but that discretion has to be individualized and case specific. You can't just say you're not going to do certain offenses. And then most recently, after the Dobbs decision was rendered by the U.S. Supreme Court, he signed a letter saying he would not enforce any laws relating to protecting the right to life in the state of Florida. And mind you, we have had prohibition on third trimester abortions for a long time. We've had prohibitions on partial birth abortions for a long time. And then most recently, the legislature enacted and I signed protections for unborn babies at 3.5 months. And when they are aborted, it's typically done through a dismemberment procedure, which is really inhumane. Nevertheless, that is what the legislature has enacted, and it's not for him to put himself above that and say that he is not going to enforce the laws. We don't elect people in one part of the state to have veto power over what the entire state decides on these important issues. The Constitution of Florida has vested the veto power in the governor, not in individual state attorneys. And so when you flagrantly violate your oath of office, when you make yourself above the law, you have violated your duty, you have neglected your duty, and you are displaying a lack of competence to be able to perform those duties. And so today we are suspending State Attorney Andrew Warren, effective immediately.
I can just hear those words, those same words, in soy, of course, coming from some Democrat who managed to honk in Missouri, where the sheriffs themselves are considering themselves a Second Amendment sanctuary in Missouri. Now, of course, like I say, it doesn't have the DeSantis tone, the strength of the DeSantis tone. You have to, in order to hear that in a Democrat voice, you have to add a lot of soy, but I don't know how I feel about this one. But, well, I anticipate some fireworks coming off of this, because a lot of the pro-aborts, the Moloch worshippers, are probably looking at this with a massive amount of outrage right now, as well. Speaking of the Moloch worshippers, from The Blaze, Stacey Abrams says being pro-choice is part of her faith. Moloch is pleased. And according to her faith, you protect the vulnerable and wrap them in your love by sacrificing them to Moloch. From Alex Nitzberg, Democratic Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams has said that being pro-choice is part of her faith. In a video that she shared on social media last month, Abrams said that the decision to be pro-choice is exactly part of my faith. I cannot strike down another person's rights simply because I don't agree. Let's listen.
This is a big question, but could you say just a little bit about how your spiritual journey intersects with your politics?
Absolutely. So the question is how my spirituality intersects with my public service. I'm the daughter of not one but two ministers. And what they raise us to believe is that your faith is a shield to protect. It is not a sword to strike others down. And for me, the decision to be pro-choice is exactly part of my faith. I cannot strike down another person's rights simply because I don't agree. My shield is to say that you have the right to make your own choices. My faith says you protect the vulnerable and you wrap them in your love. And so for me, my faith is a lived experience. It is one I will always talk about because it is a shield. It is a shield that says to me that I have the right and the ability to demand what is good because I am protected by a God who sees that good must be done, and that is my faith journey.
Moloch is pleased. I'm the daughter of not one but two ministers. My more faith-driven friends will probably have some questions about that, as do I. Abrams, who is facing off against incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp during Georgia's 2022 governor's contest, previously lost the Peach State's 2018 gubernatorial election. Abrams has previously served in the Georgia House of Representatives. This is the best part. In a campaign ad posted in 2018, Abrams said that according to her reading of Scripture, Jesus Christ was a progressive. That's not entirely untrue. But a progressive for the time, when paganism and monarchy were the norm. A wild new religion where you could be saved and be at one with your Creator. Atoned and saved for your sins. Where one man or one deity can come down, become man, and sacrifice himself. That was a progressive idea at the time. That was a radical idea at the time. So yes, that was a progressive idea at the time, but not like dye your hair blue, get a septum piercing, and kill off 75 babies, 75 of your offspring throughout your lifetime.
Reasons I am running as a Democrat. One of the reasons I consider myself a progressive is because my reading of the Bible says that Jesus Christ was a progressive. That the faith that I worship, the faith I practice, is a faith that believes in active service and active engagement. And so I was raised in a family that didn't just say, go do. They taught us to do. And I stand here today as the nominee for governor because I don't know what else to do in response to what we see around us. We are a state that is in trouble because we see the good, but we ignore the bad. And worse, we ignore those in the shadows and those that are too often unseen and unheard but need us the most. And the next governor of Georgia has to look more broadly at who we are in the state of Georgia. And we have a clear understanding of what is before us, and we have a clear choice in who will make the decisions of what we do. Will we have someone who sees in God's children their full capacity. Someone who believes that rights and freedoms aren't privileges to be handed out based on how much money you have in your zip code. Do we have a leader who is willing to invest in every Georgian and to say that if...
Well, we won't if you do, because you'll be cutting off anybody who votes for Marjorie Taylor Greene. So there's that aspect of this, but I mean, oh, Jesus was a progressive and that's why I'm a progressive and abortion is part of my faith. And you wonder why lightning struck Lafayette Square last night. The more I see of this, the less wonder I have about this. It becomes more painfully clear every time I see crap like this. Some more interesting news. Police change account of crash killing Indiana Rep. Walorski. Did somebody on the police force get threatened with suicide to the back of the head, I wonder? From Tom Davies of the Associated Press. Police have changed their description of the crash that killed Indiana Republican U.S. Rep. Jackie Walorski, saying Thursday that it was the SUV in which she was a passenger that crossed the state highway center line and caused the head-on collision. Walorski and two members of her congressional staff died in the Wednesday afternoon crash in northern Indiana, along with a woman driving the other vehicle, Elkhart County Sheriff's Office said. The department's initial account was that the car driven by Edith Schmucker, 56 of Napanee, crossed the SUV's path, but the office released a statement Thursday saying investigators had talked with witnesses and viewed the video evidence that their preliminary determination of which direction the vehicles were traveling was incorrect. Investigators determined the SUV driven by Zachary Potts, 27 of Mishawaka, crossed the center line for unknown reasons in a rural area near the town of Wakarusa. Potts has said Walorski's district's director and the Republican chairman for northern Indiana, St. Joseph County. Also killed was Emma Thompson, 28, of D.C., who was Walorski's communications director. Walorski, 58, was first elected to represent northern Indiana's 2nd Congressional District in 2012 and was seeking re-election this year to a 6th term in solidly Republican district. Walorski was a reliable Republican vote in Congress, including against accepting Arizona and Pennsylvania electoral votes for President Biden following the Capitol Selfie Fest. Under Indiana law, it would be up to local Republican officials to pick a candidate to replace Walorski on the election ballot. Republican Governor Eric Holcomb has the authority to schedule a special election to fill the remainder of Walorski's current term, which ends this year. I don't know if I would or not, though. That's the thing. I'm actually still a little bit surprised by the Flores decision because it's such a short term. Less than a year. This makes me have questions. I'm not saying there's any foul play, but this raises some questions for me. Questions that I'm probably never going to have answered. I got a few stories about Christopher Wray here, and this is about half of what I had on the stack to begin with. From CNN, FBI director expresses concern over potential attacks on the U.S. emanating from Afghanistan. From Holmes Lybrand and Paul LeBlanc. FBI Director Christopher Wray on Thursday expressed concern over potential terrorist attacks on U.S. soil emanating from Afghanistan, citing a growing intelligence gap since the U.S. pulled its troops out of the country in 2021. During a Judiciary Committee hearing, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham asked Wray, "Sugar, are you worried about an attack on the homeland emanating from places like Afghanistan, Sugar?" "We are," Wray responded, "especially now that we're out. I'm worried about the potential loss of sources and intelligence collection over there." Yeah, that sounds a lot like justification for more nation building. The FBI director added that he was worried terrorists in the U.S. could be inspired by potential growth of terrorist organizations in Afghanistan. I'm worried about the possibility we will see Al-Qaeda reconstitute, ISIS-K potentially taking advantage of the deteriorating security environment. And I'm worried about terrorists, including here in the United States, being inspired by what we see over there. I'm guessing 23 is going to see a terrorist attack that requires us to be back in the Middle East. As comments come just days after the U.S. killed Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri, who died both a few days ago and a couple years ago in Afghanistan by a drone strike. In announcing the operation, President Biden said on Monday, I made a promise to the American people that we will continue to conduct effective counterterrorism operations in Afghanistan and beyond. We've done just that, man. Come on. Biden pledged that Zawahiri will never again allow Afghanistan to become a terrorist safe haven. Because he's gone, we're going to make sure that nothing else happens. Until 2024, when we're running for re-election and trying to install a new person in the White House, and then we'll kill him again. Come on, man. Still, when asked Thursday whether he was surprised that Zawahiri was living in Afghanistan, Ray said he was not surprised, but disappointed. But wait, there's more. From The Blaze, Ted Cruz gets FBI director to make astonishing admission about agent who was in charge during Whitmer kidnapping plot investigation. FBI Director Chris Wray admitted Thursday that the FBI agent in charge of the D.C. field office is the same agent who was in charge of the Detroit field office when the FBI allegedly uncovered a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Uncovered, which means created. During a Judiciary Committee hearing, Ted Cruz pressed Wray over whether the same FBI agent who was in charge during the Whitmer indictment is now in charge of the January 6th investigation. The alleged plot by far-right militia members to kidnap Whitmer has been tarnished the FBI because many of the defendants essentially accused the FBI of entrapment. To date, none of the defendants in the trial have been convicted of any crime. Some have been acquitted at trial, while others are awaiting a new trial after a mistrial. Let's listen.
In Michigan, that case ended up an absolute debacle where the 4 people who went to trial, 2 of them were acquitted, 2 received mistrials. None of them were convicted on even a single charge, and the basis of the defense was entrapment, that the FBI, that paid enforcements for the FBI, had suggested and had incited the conduct. Let me ask you, how many FBI agents were disciplined or reprimanded after that disastrous case and the misconduct that led to every defendant being acquitted or having a mistrial on every charge?
Senator, I can't comment on a personnel matter. I can tell you that case, as I understand it, is now pending a retrial, as I understand it.
Well, the special agent in charge of that case has now been sent to D.C., to the Washington, D.C. office, and now leads the investigation regarding January 6th. Is that correct?
That doesn't sound right to me.
That does not sound right. The name of the individual is Stephen D'Antuono. He was run out of the FBI Detroit field office. And by the way, I will point out that the lead investigator, Special Agent Track, are you aware that he was apparently fired for allegedly beating his wife after coming home from a swingers party, and he'd made multiple derogatory political posts about President Trump showing political bias? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of, I think, the incident you're describing and action that was taken about it. To clarify on the first part of your question, Mr. D'Antuono was the special agent in charge of the office, the Detroit field office, and is now the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. I thought you were asking about the agent who was responsible for the...
So the guy in charge got promoted and is now in charge of the January 6th investigation.
The guy in charge of the whole Detroit field office is now in charge of the whole Washington field office.
That is astonishing.
And that is astonishing. It really is, because, again, I can't say whether or not January 6th was an FBI trap. A lot of the fuzzy details surrounding it are pointing in that direction. But the FBI has essentially admitted to the fact that the Whitmer plot was. And now you've got the same guy from the Whitmer plot now being moved over to D.C. in the midst of what's happening with January 6th. Hey, I have questions. More Christopher Wray news. Director, FBI has opened a number of abortion-related violence investigations. From Andres Picon. Christopher Wray told senators Thursday that the Bureau has opened a number of investigations into abortion-related violent crime incidents. In testimony to the Senate Judiciary, Wray told lawmakers that violence has surged among both abortion rights and anti-abortion advocates since Politico reported in May that the Supreme Court intended to roll back federal abortion protections. The Supreme Court overturned Roe in June. The FBI has been aware of violence related to abortion rights over the years, Wray said, but the Supreme Court's recent actions on the issue have generated a general intensification of violence across the issue. Mike Lee of Utah said the abortion rights activists have actively targeted over 82 churches and pregnancy centers, in some cases spray painting them, smashing windows, or firebombing the spaces. Amy Klobuchar noted during her questioning that last year attacks targeting abortion clinic staff and patients increased 128% over the previous year, including 600% increase in stalking. Among those attacks were instances of arson and Molotovs being thrown through the windows, she said. When it was reported that the Supreme Court intended to reverse Roe v. Wade, the FBI put out a directive to its field offices to be looking actively for potential threats of the very sort you're talking about, Wray told Lee. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Forces are specifically focused on attacks and threats against churches, pro-life organizations, pregnancy centers, and similar organizations and facilities. He did not specify how many abortion-related domestic terrorism investigations the FBI was working on. Well, and we knew that they were coming. Now, of course, there are people in the groups that are telling them that they need to hold back because they can't have political violence while Biden is president. Because they can't have people running up and saying, this is Biden's America. Hey, look, he's got control over everything. Which also raises questions to me about what happened in Minneapolis, Kenosha, Pennsylvania, and Seattle. And the last one on Wray from the New York Post. FBI Director Wray admits alleged bias in Hunter Biden probe deeply troubling. From Stephen Nelson. Allegations that biased FBI agents shielded the first son from criminal investigations are deeply troubling, FBI Director Chris Wray was forced to admit on Thursday, under grilling from Republican senators, before cutting the Q&A short by claiming he needed to catch a flight. The top Republican in the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, noted that Wray wasn't flying commercial and was pleaded in vain for the FBI chief to reschedule the departure of his government jet. But before leaving, Wray was pressed by John Kennedy of Louisiana about whistleblower claims against Tim Thibault, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI's D.C. field office, and FBI Supervisory Intelligence Analyst Brian Auten. Kennedy confronted Wray with allegations against the two FBI workers that Grassley revealed last month. Isn't it true that Mr. Thibault, Agent Thibault, and Auten covered up derogatory information about Mr. Hunter Biden while working with the FBI? Kennedy asked Wray point blank on Thursday. I want to be very careful not to interfere with ongoing personnel matters, Wray replied. I should say that when I read the letter that describes the kinds of things you're talking about, I found it deeply troubling. Kennedy also cited to Wray a variety of Thibault's social media barbs against Republicans, which resembles the anti-GOP attacks by FBI employees Peter Strzok and Lisa Page during the Bureau's investigation of possible Russian collusion with Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Grassley's July letter to Ray said Oughton and Thibault allegedly were involved in a scheme to undermine derogatory information connected to Hunter Biden by falsely suggesting it was disinformation. Oughton opened an assessment, which was used by FBI headquarters team to improperly discredit negative Hunter Biden information as disinformation and caused investigative activity to cease, Grassley wrote. Yeah, we know. And when asked after the fact, once the information came out, so many Biden voters came out and said, "Oh no, I wouldn't have voted for him if I'd known that." Alright, I don't typically use the Gateway Pundit, but I caught this one here and I wanted to touch on this just briefly here. I don't know if this is true. Remember, the Gateway Pundit is not green check verified, but it brings me questions. Ray Epps recruited me, political prisoner, writes tell-all letter from prison about his experience with the notorious operative Ray Epps. So we have a person specifically who claims to have contact with Epps. And I'm willing to bet that there's video out there that probably at least put these two together. I don't know if this proves that Epps was one of the conspirators to it. I'm sure that there should be more of an investigation, but I'm sure there's not going to be an investigation into him. Well, let's read here from Cara Castronuova by guest writer Olivia Wolf. You have a megaphone. You need to tell people the plans. We're going inside, Ray Epps allegedly told a protester on Constitution Avenue on January 6th. This protester was J6 defendant Sean Michael McHugh. McHugh is sat in D.C. Gitmo for over a year, now in inhuman conditions, while Ray Epps roams free. I just about said remains. There is some editorialization of this that I call out CNN for, so I gotta call out Gateway Pundit for it as well. McHugh is a father of four and a California business owner detained for 427 days in DC's Gulag. McHugh faces 2 misdemeanors, 8 felonies, loss of licensure, and decades in prison. Sean McHugh wrote a tell-all letter about his experience meeting Ray Epps and the observations he made of the notorious man. See his letter to the Gateway Pundit below from his cell in DC Gitmo, detailing his repeated encounters with Epps and the burning question, why has Epps evaded charges when those who did far less have been charged with so much more? Let's read. It is lengthy, so I don't know if we're going to go through the entire thing, but we'll pick some of the stuff here. My fellow patriots, I'm a January 6th political prisoner being held in the DC Gulag. My name is Sean McHugh. I'm being held on very inhumane conditions in the DOJ's efforts to try to make me plead guilty under duress. I believe they're trying to do this because I had direct contact as seen on video with Epps, an individual who's been reported by multiple media sources to possibly have FBI connections and involvement for incitement. At the very least, he appears to be a government cutout protected by a lawyer who was formerly known as an employee of the FBI. In fact, the FBI has covered for him by scrubbing his name from the most wanted list for January 6th after real journalism exposed his identity. I encountered Ray Epps, the real de facto leader of January 6, 2021, multiple times while in DC. I had coincidental contact with Epps throughout the day and people who appeared to be working in concert with Epps. Other than Capitol Police attacking peaceful protesters without provocation or warning, Epps was more responsible for initiating the events. So it looks like they put some typo here that happened at the Capitol than anyone else. He is seen on video on January 5th encouraging other patriots to go inside the Capitol, which is the very inception of the whole idea to actually go inside. However, he is still not indicted or spent 1 day in jail. I'm actually the one labeled as the de facto leader of January 6th by the government and Chief Judge Howell of the DC Circuit. On the morning of January 6th, my mother, friend, and I were walking down Constitution Ave towards Ellipse Park. I was talking to into my megaphone something about Joe Biden when I was waved down by who I now know as Epps. We walked over to Epps and Associates, who were wearing military colors. He was yelling, "We're marching over to the Capitol at 1 p.m. whether Trump is done speaking or not, and we are going inside." When we were close to Epps, he put his hand on my shoulder and said to me, "You have a bullhorn. You have a loud voice to get the word out. Trying to place responsibility on me, Epps said, "You need to tell people the plans. At 1 p.m. we're going inside the Capitol, whether Trump is done speaking or not. We're leaving from here and we will walk that way to the Capitol and through the front door." That was near the corner of what I believe is Constitution and Ellipse Park. We continued on with our day at the Trump rally, and as Trump was speaking, sure enough, a crowd was on its way down Constitution Ave towards our nation's capital. This was the beginning of a peaceful protest, or so I thought. At the Capitol, Epps was whispering in Ryan Samsel's ear, egging him to take down the barricade as seen on video. I can tell you, Ray Epps was inciting the crowd all day. Ray Epps was yelling to the crowd, "Push forward" on the West Terrace. I heard Epps on multiple occasions saying we're going inside, even after a peaceful protest was met with police force on West Terrace. Not once did my mother, my friend, or I pass police line or continue into the Capitol building that day. However, I was attacked multiple times with rubber bullets and sprayed repeatedly directly in the face with various chemicals for speaking on my megaphone. My mother was also sprayed with multiple different chemicals on her face and shot with rubber bullets and pepper balls in her head for no reason. Capitol Police were aiming for faces and leaving multiple people's faces riddled with holes, bleeding profusely. My friend was hit in the head with a concussion grenade and went off, severely injuring him and cracking one of his teeth. Without warning or provocation, it was clear they wanted to severely injure people without any announced reason or apparent provocation. I watched as Capitol Police beat unarmed women with batons. I watched a very petite woman pushed over by Capitol Police onto a sharp leg of a barricade that was on its side purposely and unwarranted. They wanted to hurt the vulnerable and the elderly. Everyone was asking, "Why are you doing this?" They were out for blood. And I'm going to step off of this for that. Sean McHugh, prisoner number 378159. So this does raise more questions. I would love to see testimony or video of this. I'm sure that there's plenty of video from around the day of this happening if it happened. I'm sure that we're never going to see it. But I'm also sure that McHugh probably wouldn't write this and get it out unless he could come back and try to verify this at some point. But this is not what you're going to see on the January 6th committee. I would love to see this video get subpoenaed if it hasn't been deleted already. Honk honk. In a trial of some sort. Again, I know they're trying to hold him, or what he says they're trying to hold him in inhumane conditions to try to get him to pop guilty, because if he does try to take it to trial, he is going to ask for this evidence to be subpoenaed. And it sounds to me like the DOJ is trying to do everything they can to try to keep that from happening. Once again, raising my questions as to whether or not the DOJ is being used for political purposes. So, that's what we see for that. All right, couple more here. Mid-protest, Senate passes health care for vets exposed to toxic burn pits. From Allison Pecorin and Gabe Ferris. Which tells me that the senators cucked, because it looks like the amendments were brought down for a vote and they all failed, and they still voted to pass that thing. After a series of Republican-led delays and emotional protests, the Senate on Tuesday approved a bill that will help veterans exposed to toxic burn pits, a measure President Biden intends to quickly sign into law. The Senate began voting on the PACT Act around 5 p.m. with votes on 3 Republican amendments before vote on the final passage, which was 86 to 11. None of the proposed amendments passed, which means $400 billion of unregulated spending. Chuck U. Schumer on the floor called the passage a wonderful moment because he just got a $400 billion payout, especially for all the people who made this happen. So, there's some more spending right down for you that's probably not going to go for the vets at all. From the Blaze, Wikipedia changes editing rules as users fight over definition of recession. From Eric Cervone. Wikipedia has implemented restrictions for new and unregistered users who try to edit the page about recession, according to The Hill. New users and anonymous users will be able to make changes to the recession page, but their edits will be subject to review from volunteer editors. Volunteer editors who know the approved storyline. The definition of recession has been under intense debate since last week, when the Commerce Department revealed the U.S. GDP fell by an annualized rate of 0.9% during the second quarter of 2022. This followed a 1.6% contraction in the first quarter with an annualized rate of 1.6%. Traditionally, 2 consecutive quarters of decreasing GDP, which measures the goods and services a country produces, is considered a recession. However, Janet Yellen has denied the U.S. is in a recession. During a recent appearance on Meet the Depressed, Yellen stated, "It's not an economy that's in a recession, but we're in a period of transition in which growth is slowing, and that's necessary and appropriate, and we need to be growing at a steady, sustainable pace." Because, of course, they locked out the edit function. Because it's devastating to their narrative. From NPR, former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vazquez is charged with bribery. And this comes from the Associated Press, which means NPR journalists and opinion contributors. We're not involved in the writing of this, but you should still hit that donate button because they need our money, comrade, to pick and choose the news from other sources. That is the most communist to get back out and tell you. So, hit that donate button and we will tell you why Wanda Vazquez was wrong. Because Puerto Rico is a very, very progressive territory. And remember, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vazquez was arrested Thursday on bribery charges related to the financing of her 2020 campaign, the latest hit to an island with a long history of corruption that brought fresh political upheaval to the U.S. territory, and they want statehood for it. Desperately. Vazquez is accused of engaging in a bribery scheme from December 2019 through June of 2020 while she was governor, with several people, including a Venezuelan Italian bank owner, a former FBI agent, a bank president, and a political consultant. "I am innocent and have not committed any crime," she told reporters. "I assure you that they have committed great injustices against me." The arrest embarrassed and angered many in Puerto Rico who believe the island's already shaky image has been further tarnished, leaving a growing number of people who have lost faith in their local officials to wonder whether federal authorities are their only hope to root out entrenched government corruption. Concern over previous corruption cases led to a delay in federal aid for Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, as the U.S. government implemented more safeguards. Thursday's arrest was a blow to Vazquez's pro-statehood New Progressive Party, which is pushing to hold a referendum next year on a bid to become the 51st state. Which is funny because about half the people in the territory don't want to be a state, and half the people do, so we're in an interesting spot with that one, definitely. Vazquez was the second woman to serve as Puerto Rico's governor and the first former governor to face federal charges. Former Governor Aníbal Acevedo Vila of the opposing Popular Democratic Party was charged with campaign finance violations while in office and was found not guilty in 2009. He had been the first Puerto Rican governor to be charged with a crime in recent history. Yeah. Well, I believe this was also the lady who appropriated all supplies and hid them in a warehouse and said, "Look, President Trump doesn't care about you. He's not sending you any of your supplies." I believe this is the same lady, because I do remember it was a woman that did that. I remember them saying that. I don't recall them saying the name, but they had referenced a female governor, and this article saying she's the first female governor. So it sounds to me like, this woman is entrenched in a litany of problems. Alright, let's do some libs of TikTok. I got some stuff here that you guys will like to close out the show before we do live chat. On the extended show, of course, because, again, we actually get to have some time today because I took the day off. So if you are, as we're getting towards the end here, if you have not chatted in the live chat and you would like to be addressed when we say thank you, get your last minute messages in because we'll be going through today's live chat today And I'll be saying thank you to all the names on this sheet here of the people who came in and live chatted throughout the week. So, let's do some Lips of TikTok. A bunch of middle schoolers owned this woke teacher when she asked for their pronouns. Let's listen.
Okay, TikTok, I really need your help here on this one. I'm a teacher. I teach 5th and 6th grade, and this morning, I don't know, somehow the concept of pronouns came up. And one of my students said, well, Miss Odell, did you even ask me my pronouns? And I was like, whoa, I hadn't actually asked him his pronouns, and I had called him a him, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't actually asked you what your pronouns are, and what are they? And he said, Banana said, banana and rock. And I was like, dude, no, like, don't mess around with, I was actually really upset because I thought he was making fun of it. And in fact, I'm still pretty sure he was making fun of it. And, but they all agreed, no, like, you can choose anything. Banana, rock, if you want banana and rock to be a pronoun, banana and rock's a pronoun. Is it? TikTok, tell me. Okay, TikTok, I really need your help here on this.
I want to see how she would react. Like, I want to get this woman to look at my profile at some point to see how she reacts to this. Because, of course, I have my pronouns in my bio, too. My pronouns are your mom. By the way, if you're not following me over here, at Edsblog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. I'm going to be changing that in the near future, though. So I think that I have settled on I'm going to register for J. Edgar 102. 101 is taken by somebody who's been inactive since early 2000s. And I have no way to get a hold of her. But yeah, I think that's going to be what it's going to be. I think it's going to be J. Edgar 102. So that'll probably be coming up here in the near future. But yeah, I do have my pronouns in my bio. Now, if you've got a little bit of a restoration of your faith in humanity, this is going to dash it down to bits. Drew Hernandez, Death Cult. Woman teaches how to build an altar for post-abortion, which includes a container for the remains of the baby after being aborted, and the abortion pills on the altar. She ends the DIY, which he mistyped as DYI, but he corrected it, by kneeling before the altar, not satire.
Building an altar for your abortion can be a really cathartic procedure, can be a really cathartic process, because it just creates a space for your sacred container where you can return to whenever you want to meditate, whenever you want to think deeply or contemplate any aspect of your abortion. It's a really beautiful way to just give reverence to the experience and hold the experience in a really sacred way. Really just clean the space, clean myself. I like to always have a candle going on my altar. I'm also going to be adding an Empress tarot card today, and she really just symbolizes feminine fertility and feminine energy. I also really like to add the abortion pills themselves to the altar to really bless the pills that we're going to be taking into our bodies during this process. And before having your abortion, I would even just recommend giving them a nice sage or a nice Palo Santo or with incense or another smoke to really cleanse the energy and really bless them and really put your intention for healing into the pills before you take them. And place the container of which you plan to put the products of conception or the fetal remains within to catch that after you've passed it and save it for later when we find a way to bury or otherwise to where we find a way to properly dispose of the fetal remains in a way that gives reverence and respect and support to this sacred abortion experience. After you finish building your altar, go ahead and just give it one more cleanse to really bring this space in as your own. And once your altar is complete, go ahead and just sit in front of it and the start of this sacred container.
God damn it. It always happens at least once. Great, now I have to go back and figure out what it is that I entirely said throughout the rest of this. So, what I was saying with this, but before I realized that I was muted out here, we only got a couple tabs off of this, but this is... I know I'll be reading some comments about this too in the chat, because I've seen some of your comments in the chat off of this, and I mean, this is a pro-choice person. This is supposed to be a person in the position of we don't consider this to be a life. We don't consider this to be a human being, so why are we having a funereal pyre for it? I have a cousin. His wife miscarried their first, and he's got two beautiful daughters after that, but they had a son first, but he was developing without lungs, essentially. There was a fluid that she mentioned that was crucial in the development of lungs that he had formed without. So he was, in essence, by all rights and purposes, miscarried. Now, my cousin has his son's name tattooed on his bicep. Actually, I think it's this one. Quick, somebody text Brian and ask him which arm it is. But he's got the tattoo on his arm of his son's name with the halo and the wings because he's pro-life. He considered that to be a human, his developing son. The entire point of the pro-choice or pro-abortion movement is the fact that this is not a human life. The entire aspect of this is that this isn't a person in their belief system, so why have a funereal pyre? Except for, of course, to appease with Moloch. So, that's what we see for that. From the Blaze, groomer alert, half-naked man teaches young boy how to use a stripper pole at Pennsylvania Pride event celebrated by Governor Wolf. What's the name of that song? We'll Convert Your Children? From Courtney Wheel. A video posted to the Twitter account Libs of TikTok has once again ignited the ire of concerned parents and citizens across social media. The video in question features a young boy dancing on a stripper pole at a Pennsylvania Pride event while a half-naked man and other spectators cheer him on. Let's watch. The thing that gets me about this is the fact that the pole dance has become This new thing where women think it's empowering, and it's, from what I understand, it's a tremendous core workout. It's an amazing core workout for that, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a titillating thing for sexual pleasure. I know they tried to change the definition of a pole dance out from, it's not a stripper thing, it's now an exercise, but again, once you start to add the skirts, the flamboyance, the hairstyle, and the half-naked man, this starts to be an entirely different thing. All right, and the last one, just as a palate cleanser, because I thought this was funny, especially since we have one person here who regularly rides the subway. I want to see if Fanning will try this once. Clown World video, post this video. We'll watch this one. It's a quick 5-second video, and then we'll do some live chat for the day.
Where you finna go? Hey!
Boom!
Either black, where you finna go? Hey! Either black, where you finna go? Hey!
Like, what did you think was going to happen? And from what I understand, and I've never been in New York City, I've seen the T go by, but that's not in a subway. But those things are booking when you go, too. Like, they're moving. Pow! Got him. I can't stop watching this. I put this at the end, and I found this while we were already live. I put this up at the end because I couldn't stop watching it. I could not stop watching. I still can't stop watching it. Okay, we got to stop watching it at some point. But when we do stop watching it, we are going to do so with the live chat over here. So that'll be our backdrop for the entire time we're doing live chat. Oh, I got to put this over on this side because of where my camera is over here. All right, so we've got live chat for the day. We'll back up to see where we picked up from when we started. Oh, we're already back into 8:16 when this started. Quest Fanning says, dong. Quest Fanning says, don't use your phone cellular, Arvolt. I wouldn't dare run personal stuff on my office network. I do all the time. Especially not daily ignoramus. And we're talking about Kane, of course. Quest Fanning and A Gaines P talking about Kane. Arvold says, Jacobs and Kane is a certified badass, and he was an okay wrestler, too. Yeah, he was actually, when I was into the WWE, he was my favorite. He absolutely was. The dead trend is here. Inflation is going to grow. Quest says, here in Brooklyn, I've got a bridge to sell these same people. The dead trend says, remove all Democrats. By the way, welcome in, Dead Trend. That's a new name. Thanks for coming in here. And then he says, AOC is going to run for the president in 2024. She's going to get wrecked. All right, and we'll put a pin in that message here, and we'll catch up and see what happened throughout the week, and then we'll go finish up what we said. You guys were busy today, and I'm happy to see that. On Monday, our top chatters were Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, A Gaines P, Arvolt 24, Randy Crush Saga, CFC Hearts, that was a new name. Thanks for coming in and joining out with us. I don't see that person has joined, but thanks for coming in and joining us. By the way, speaking of people who have joined, I see that somebody got a subscriber point in, which means somebody re-upped their subscription today. I don't know who it was. I didn't get it in my alerts, which we'll have to have a conversation with Twitch about, because I'm supposed to have that in my alerts when somebody resubscribes, so I can say thank you to that person. But whoever did resubscribe during the stream, thank you. Your $2.20 will help into the fund. We had Shalaga and Horatius. On Tuesday, we had Quest Fanning, A. Gaines P., Horatius, Arbold, Ron Helton, KTZed, I'm One Bully, who followed us, by the way. Thank you for that. Awesome, and Nala Black. Wednesday gave us Quest Fanning, Horatius, Ron Helton, A. Gaines P., Randy Crush Saga, MK Ultra, Arvolt, 24, Miarlat Hotel, and Buzz Lou, 1985, who also followed. Thank you for that. New followers. Growing the community, definitely. Looks like we have a new person in the Discord, too. I saw that while we were going through stuff. Before I clumsily forgot to hit my microphone mute off button, I muted it to take a drink while we were watching the video and then didn't hit it again when we came back off the video. Lame. And yesterday, we had a lot of viewers yesterday, but not a lot of chatters, which is fine, because I understand we're competing with the AM radio folks. So I understand people can't text and drive, text and work, etc., but I still appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate being in your headphones while you're sitting at your desk on a Thursday morning. On Thursday, our chatters were Quest Fanning, Arbolt, 24, Randy Crush Saga, Ron Helton, A. Gaines P., and Chilaga, 1984. Let's finish out what we were looking with this. Quest Fanning says, I took out a couple loans recently below inflation as a hedge. They're paying me to hold their money. Interesting. It's Newsom or AOC. I don't think either one of them, because I don't think Newsom can win in general, and I don't think AOC can either. I don't think AOC can win a primary, honestly. Dead Trend says, we need Don and Ron 2024. I have inhibitions about Ron. I have fewer inhibitions about Don because of, firing 50,000 people. I mean, stop. I can only get so excited. Love the stream. Keep it up. Thank you. Quest says it wouldn't be hard to pin shutdown suffering on Newsom and publicize the science that shows lockdowns actually hurt the public on net. Also appeal to their pocketbooks. Randy is here. Ron says, end the Fed, end the IRS. No more direct taxes. Direct taxes are evil. Quite the echo. And do I have an echo going on here? I hope I don't. Sully Blue is here with cat stickers. Tailor-made charges. Horatio says, if Trump didn't win, this POS would be on the Supreme Court. Yes. Absolutely. Randy says, I think it was that they had a warrant for his place, but actually went to her place because that's where he was, or something along those lines. Gaines is out for a physical therapy appointment, and meet the teacher day. Mazel tov. Be in your child's teacher's lives. Let them know that you're not going to take any of their woke crap. Plus says, depreciation of rights under color of law sounds like a charge we should put against COVID tyrant. No, that sounds like a charge we should put against the federal government. I am still watching this guy try to dive off the subway. Horatio says, why were the feds involved at all? Civil rights. Because they couldn't pin anything on a local level. That's why. The DOJ and the FBI are just an arm of the Democrat Party. Plus says, Brittany Griner got a long sentence, very long, practically a run-on sentence. Those ones that often have poor punctuation and practically become their own paragraph that should really be broken into more than one sentence, that kind of sentence. I got it. I got it. Horatio says, Fox News behind the scenes is run by lip craps, according to Gavin and others who have been employees there. The written news especially plays right into the leftist narratives. An example is Alex Jones right now. Yeah, I don't really care for Tucker either, because I do think that he is another one of those that is, he gets a script. He doesn't come up with this stuff off the top of his head. But he can come in, he's got a bunch of money, he can make it sound really good and outrage a bunch of conservatives at the same time. I don't trust Tucker. I never have. When he gets it right, I say Mazel Tov. When he doesn't, I say, yeah, I knew about you all along. Quest says after her knees get busted, I'm guessing she won't take a knee for the anthem, but she can't stand for it either. I like the word draconian. It reminds me of Dracula. Ron says they stomped on Russia hard with sanctions, now expect Russia to show leniency. Quest says no moral authority, 1994 crime bill. And Horatio says the only good thing Biden did in 50 years of being a politician. We will have to agree to disagree on that one. Has it come out how many drugs she had? I heard it was a lot more than the media claims. Yeah, I've heard that too, but no individual confirmation of that. Yes, all gun laws are illegal, unconstitutional. Anyone who enforces them is an open rebellion of the Bill of Rights and the people. Horatio says DeSantis should be the norm in the Republican Party, not the exception. Pretty pathetic. I do have reservations about DeSantis, especially with how eager he was to legislate by executive order in the beginning. He has tempered that. I will give credit where credit is due. He has tempered that back and urged more legislation and less EO. Plus says knives aren't love. Arvolt says everything Abrams is saying should be applied to the most vulnerable, a fetus. Arvolt says that she can say these things in a church without being tied to a post and burned is a sign of how far we have fallen from grace. Plus says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, not what you want him to redistribute to others. And which Caesar is going to take a 10% portion off the top of. Arvolt says, fetus vote. Eventually, I'm a Roe generation child, as are you. We vote because we weren't killed. The older I get, the Roe decision makes me even more furious. Quest says, my mom made it pretty clear if anything negative came back from my MBO, I would have been terminated. Ooh. That's harsh. Quest says, hear about a woman who ran the red light yesterday. 6 died, including a pregnant mom and her fetus. No, I haven't heard about that one. Apparently Sully saw the accident. Ooh. No, I don't know that one. I'm sorry. Oh, you want comments below the subway video? We can do that. We got a little bit of time. Inspired, I almost wonder if it was a suicide attempt thing. Quest says, some people are so evil, you really have to wonder how damaged they must be to have degenerated to that from a child of God. Questions are unpatriotic. Quest Fanning says, I'd like to catch a flight of beer. I've never used that terminology, or heard that terminology rather used about beer. Sully says, now there's a slogan I can get behind. Tattoo Lover is here. Hi, how you been? My state primary in Connecticut is this Tuesday. I believe mine in Wisconsin is this coming Tuesday as well. The 9th, yeah. It's this Tuesday. Plus says, I'm hoping to get to Florida in the fall. Airline prices have been unacceptable thus far, but they seem to be getting better. And Tattoo Lover 26, by the way, joined the Discord, so we'll maybe see if we can get a topic chair going today. Although I will be out doing Man in the Streets, so no plans in the chat. Quest says, if you think Juan is corrupt, you should see 2. Arvolt says, why would PR want statehood, full U.S. citizenship with no federal taxation? Well, they want to vote in Congress is the thing. Or rather, they've been convinced that they want to vote in Congress because it seems like they feel they're guaranteed 2 more Democratic senators. And probably a gaggle of Democratic representatives. How many people live in Puerto Rico, by the way? $3.194 million. Which tells me that they would probably, if I had to guess, come in at about 4 representatives, maybe 5 to keep it up at an even multiple of 5. Bring us to 440 representatives. Because one of the concerns about this, I have a friend from Puerto Rico who had mentioned the fact that while she herself wanted to see statehood for it, statehood would not be allowed for Puerto Rico because the 435 would have to be redistributed. They don't want to add more seats to the House, which I don't know if that's the case or if they would add 5 seats for it. And probably 2 for DC as well, by the way. Quest says, this video was funny. I said, if the pronoun lady live by the pronoun, die by the pro sword, die by the pro sword. My pronouns are rock and banana. Our votes are attack and helicopter. Quest says, they're the ones that have been trying to strip meaning from words. And says, I'll call Ed mom. Webster's literally changing the definition of definition. Plus says, if you have an abortion, you should at least honor the child, not the abortion procedure. This woman mocks these women. She's trash. Horatio says, I hope God sends her to hell. Yeah, I muted myself to take a drink while we were watching that horrific video and then didn't hit the button back on. Alright, well, you had a very moving speech, I'm sure. We just didn't hear it. I got most of it, yeah. Horatio says they always knew it was a baby. They just said it wasn't for moral cover. Like Bill Burr says, according to Sully Blue, if you put a cake batter in a pan and then in the oven, if someone takes it out after 10 minutes and destroys it, no matter what you call it at the time, in 50 minutes it would have been a cake. Yeah, the woman cheering on the little boy is disturbing as all hell. Exercise, more like in need of an exorcism. Horatio says they think that tiny weird things on Mars are life. They always knew it was a baby, otherwise why would they have to go get it murdered? The people are vessels of Satan. Liberalism is Satanism. Well, Satanism is an atheistic paganism religion, so I would say Luciferianism more than Satanism. Plus says that's some drunk shit. Oops. Well, there goes my AM radio ratings. Conservation is motion rather is a thing on subways too, says Arvold. Horatio says broken face. Is this a PATH train instead? I have no idea. I mean, we've been watching it for at least 10 minutes. It's not a New York City MTA subway. He didn't kick his feet fast enough to run right off. Ron Helton with the AOC sticker, Sully with the sticker party. Quest Fanning says, Mother Tucker. Arvold says, the last thing we need to do is read the comments below the subway video. Harvey McLeod is here for the end. What is this, some dude trying to jump off the train? Yeah. Horatio says, he just has a 74 IQ or lower. Harvey says, should be titled Democrats on the Biden Train. Quest says, a flight of beer is several different ones together at once, typically in smaller glasses, like 7 4-ounce glasses. Okay. It's interesting. Spanning says, when are you expecting to go live from the Trump event? I talked to the person who's going to be running camera there for me, and we're expected to meet up at around 3. The gates open at 2, but Probably not going to go live right away. Around 4 Central, we'll probably run it for a half hour, walk around. I do want to save some battery because the battery on my phone is getting weaker by the day because, well, planned obsolescence, obviously. And it's just about time for an upgrade. But I do want to make sure that I have plenty of battery left for the speech at the end. So we'll be watching that. That's at 7 Central Time when the Orange Man goes live. So I'm hoping to be for there. I will probably throw out some tweets before I get there, but yeah, we'll be doing the Trump event. So Sully's sending me the car crash video, which I think I saw the alert for. Quest says fewer folks live in Puerto Rico than in New York City. Damn, maybe Jay will show it on the Monday or the other show. Well, I don't do the other show anymore. I gave that up when I realized that I was getting a lot of work done for not a lot of return on the Monday night time slot is very, very difficult. This time slot is surprisingly easy. The only person I'm really actually competing with in this time slot is Styx. Because he's starting at like 6:30 in the morning Central Time and going for an hour, and pretty much an hour easy. So about the time I'm starting, he is just finishing up for the morning. Let's see. Harvey says, what's Trump doing? Trump is doing a rally for businessman Tim Michaels this morning, or this afternoon. Which means I'm going to get patted down by the Secret Service, and I will be live streaming from that, so. Alright, with that, by special request, we're going to go and look at the comment section below the video. Clown World was the account that put it out. Rachel Rustophocles says, that's smack though. Remember kids, angular momentum is real. Bobby McKeown says, yet again, science has reared its ugly head. Yes, believe the science. Donald Ream says, said it before, but Darwinism is the answer. My guess is a warning sign saying, do not jump off the moving train will be the lawyer's response. Cubs fan says, not sure what stop, but definitely the red line here in Chicago. Oh, maybe the medical district. That's a Chicago one. Online Persona says 47th red line. Get video bot. Somebody didn't pay attention in science class. A body in motion stays in motion until it hits the pavement. Mark Me Duck Hunter says, I guess he was never taught relative motion and momentum. He never had a chance. Eric Fixner says, the cost of not paying attention in physics class because I'll never need it in my life. All things considered, he seems to have been very lucky. Didn't crush his head, didn't seem to break a leg, possibly not even break an arm. Prophecy 13 says, how'd this person make it to adulthood? An irredeemable patriot says, our tax dollars. Spectra says, that man had an urgent meeting with the pavement. And the last one I'll do is N. Says, Corinne Jean-Pierre every time she steps up to the podium. I like that one. You're getting a like for that. On air. Live on air. Alright. That's it. We're done. All right, let's get out of here. I'm gonna go make some breakfast. And then prepare myself, get some videos set up. You'll probably see a test alert from me at some point here while I make sure that all my software is set up and going. But we're done. By the way, I just randomly grabbed a shirt out of my drawer before I went live. And then perfectly, we had the video of the lightning striking the White House with this shirt on. I did not plan that, I promise. I didn't realize that until we talked about the lightning strike. Save the Clock Tower, Hill Valley Preservation Society, 1985. It's probably one of my favorites. I get asked about it all the time, too. Little Zoomers who have never seen Back to the Future. All right. We're done. Outro music. So, with that, we finish out for a very productive week, but don't fret if I possibly can navigate what was going on with the Trump rally. We'll be there later on today to listen to the man speak. I will get patted down by Secret Service, all in the name of good journalism. So join us for that. Again, because of the nature of mobile technology, I will not be able to see your commentary on that, but I will be looking into it as we go. So don't be afraid to come in and do commentary with it as well. It will be unfortunate that I won't be able to see it, and yeah, we'll make sure that there's no muting issue like it was with my first Kenosha stream either, because that was embarrassing. Hours of walking around with no sound because of the way that my phone interacts with the mute button and the mute feature in my truck, and I didn't even realize it. But we'll get this all done. We'll get this all fixed up, and do make sure you guys show some love for the cameraman as well today that's coming out here to help me. I got his ticket taken care of, so that'll be a great time. Looking forward to that. Otherwise, game stream this weekend and some more fun on Monday as well as we go through, because we finished everything here today with a brand new slate of news for Monday morning, including possibly some information on the Tim Michaels rally and hopefully nothing else bad happening here in Wisconsin. But other than that, we will see you then, and Monday night even for some more Fallout 3 as well. Hope to see you guys for all of that. I love seeing you guys here on this channel, I really do. That's why we take the time and read and give the thank yous for the people, even though I don't typically go with the live chat during the live stream to keep our left-leaning friends from upending the stream over on Twitch, because it's always Twitch when they come over here for that. But you guys understand, you guys know. We'll be back here later on today for the Trump rally, Saturday for gaming, and on Monday for more contemporary. We hope to see you there, and until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.